nervous system has this sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic system is managing the stressful condition. It creates the stress actually. It allows you to get into a stress to manage the stressful condition. And so it is, when it is on, it manifests in so many ways. You dries out your mouth, your appetite is gone completely. You get into a mode called fight-flight response. You are a fighter at that time. You want to really save yourself. And for that, you wanted to fight and get over the problem. That is a mode where a person is getting into. It is actually happening by the production of stress hormones. As soon as the situation is understood by your brain, from the limbic system, there goes a direct connection to the suprarenal gland, which is the adrenal gland. So it produces hormones to trigger the adrenal gland. So the adrenal gland starts to produce adrenaline. It is a drug actually. When the adrenaline is pumped, it immediately alters the beat of your heart. And also it changes the breathing system because you need more oxygen for the higher activity that your heart is doing at the time. So instead of breathing long and deep, you narrow down the breath and you take short breaths. And that's why angry people are breathing very, very fast and very strong, but not very long breath. The breath gets arrested. So that is a good condition. And the supply goes into the organs such as your hands and your legs to either run away or to fight. All the rest of the system will be put off. This is what is happening. That's why it is very dangerous also. Then when once the sympathetic system has made the stress and managed the stress, then there happens another hormone which is called the noradrenaline or norepinephrine. And then you get into another response which is called the feeding breeding response. Now you are relaxed. You feel like eating. You wanted to have like sex or enjoyment of the life. And these are the two basic systems. In yoga, we need to have a balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system. At will, you may be able to, by practice, you will be able to trigger the parasympathetic system as soon as the stress is shooting up. And that is the capacity the practitioner slowly gets into. And then that can be actually supported by the breathing which you are doing. As you were saying that your breath gets very shorter, and that's the time you immediately need to be aware of what's happening with the breath. And then you propose the long, deep exhalation. As soon as this is manifesting in your body by altering the breathing system, that's the moment you need to breathe long and deep exhalation. And if you do it few times, then the stress system cannot take over. Instead, the parasympathetic system will continue. But there are crisis situations at which we need to be stressful to handle that situation. In a stressful, if the stress is not there, you may not be able to handle it, handle your life at that time. That's why the stress is not bad. Stress is a condition where you have very high demand and no sufficient tool to deal the demand. And so either we have to equip our tools or we have to reduce the demand. And these are how we are dealing it usually. Sometimes nothing may be working in that way. Suddenly the stress is coming. And then as a response to the stress, you get into the fight-flight response. And that will continue for some time until you manage the situation. And then norepinephrine or noradrenaline will be slowly starting to produce. That is actually the parasympathetic hormone. and then you get into the peaceful state. The technique which a practitioner can do is as soon as the stress is coming up, that is the time you have to start to breathe deeply outward. Breathing should be long and deep. That will trigger the parasympathetic system. So you will not get into the fight-flight response. And usually what happens in stress, when the stress hormones are producing, what happens is we lock our belly. A fighter will lock the belly to get into the mode of fighting as a protection. So if you allow the belly not to be locked at the time, by long deep exhalation, then you can start to inhale. So that can be practiced. In your case, as you were saying, somebody whom you come across, of some reason, I don't know exactly the reason why your breath gets shortened, but chemically it is creating some kind of stress hormone in your body. That's the reason why the stress, as a stress response, you start to breathe shorter breath. And that is the time you make it longer exhalation. Thereby, the stress hormones slowly starts to slow down and the parasympathetic system will be active. You get into a calm state. So you can try that. And then some people are sensitive in this way. Not all people. Some people are very sensitive to other people, other situations, or maybe certain places. And so this can happen. It can be a little inconvenient because we will not get a control over our system, and the nature and the outside world is taking over us at that time. So we need to get back our control. For that, breathing is a good system. It's a supporting system. So as soon as it is, if you are not doing it as soon as it is starting, then the sympathetic system will take over. So it is better better to be aware of the change that you are aware of, and then start to breathe long, few times, and thereby you get back into the parasympathetic activation, and that can be managed in this way.